Hey everybody, I'm going to show you a new feature inside of Rise that was recently released that is pretty awesome. It will allow you to upload content like a PDF or some documentation, and it will build lesson content, interactive blocks, and everything for you automatically. It's pretty mind-blowing and definitely something that I'll continue to use and wish that I had in previous jobs as well, but we'll dive into this. So inside of Rise, if you head on over to your Rise account, they have this new Create with AI feature. This allows you to upload documentation. Now, you could upload documentation before, and there was a course outline that allowed you to go through, and as you started to create content, it would prompt the next content based on the outline. This takes it to a whole nother level. This will create the outline for you. This will create all of the blocks, all of the pages for you automatically. So all you have to do is take that documentation. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the documentation, and this is just sample documentation. But the first documentation that I'm going to be working with is the standards of conduct. Inside of the standards of conduct, it's basically just a pretty much generic dressing and grooming, reporting concerns and violations, something that you would see in any type of compliance training. So that is document number one. Document number two that we're going to upload is basically some, and this is what when I worked at Amazon, I worked with very technical documentation because we were having to train people on how to use different like packing and stowing pieces of software. And so we had to sift through a lot of documentation and extract out this training to simplify it as well. So I wanted to create a sample. This isn't Amazon documentation, but I wanted to create a sample documentation that is just very technical, not easy to read, and everything like that. So that is this documentation, warehouse equipment, process bad documentation. In the title, it says bad documentation. So this is something that I use ChatGPT to help me create this kind of sample documentation. All right, so I wanted to show you those two examples, and we're going to walk through this process on both and see what comes out of this and see how we can manipulate and adjust things along these steps. So let's go ahead and pull Rise back up. So the very first thing that I do, and this is a completely new course, you could actually upload documents to an existing course, and you could actually create content to an existing course from that documentation. That might be a different video, or maybe I'll show that at the end here. But I'm going to go ahead and click on Create with AI. Inside of here, it'll take me to my content where I can then upload my documentation. So I'm going to go ahead and just make my browser a little bit smaller. And you don't even have to upload documentation. You could actually describe the type of course that you want right here, and then you could describe the outline without documentation. But because I have documentation, I'm going to go ahead and just drag this and upload that. Now I can upload several pieces of documentation. It doesn't just have to be one, but I'm going to create a course based off of just this one PDF. Then I describe the course. Even though I have documentation to help support it, I want to describe what I'm looking for in this course. This is a course all about standards of conduct and how you should act while working at the Acme company. That is the fictional company that I have created for this documentation. So you could describe it more, you can give it some more detail here, but this is all that I want to start with and see what happens, and then I can manipulate it in each step as well. So once I have described the course, I've uploaded the documentation, the next step is to go ahead and generate course details. Now it's going to go through and it's going to analyze my documentation. It's going to analyze my description as well, and it's going to create an outline for me. If for some reason I don't like what the outline has come back with and I want to start from scratch, well, that's where this edit with AI button comes into play. And this is where I can add more specific instructions like, no, I want this to focus on a manager. I want this to focus on the employee, that kind of thing. And then it will rebuild it from scratch. And so keep that in mind. It's not to fine tune what's here. It's actually to go back and start over at this point. The first thing that we see is course topic, workplace behavior standards of conduct. This is not the title. This is just the topic, the overall topic of the course. The second one is tone. How do you want this tone or the voice of the course to be? So in this case, you describe it with just words separated by a comma. So we have clear, professional, respectful, supportive. Those are the kinds of things that you would put in there. So if you want it friendly, or if you want it straight to the point, or if you wanted to dive in and be very informative, you can write words like informative, and things like that. So that is the kind of tone that you want, and that's going to dictate the type of writing that will get created as well. Now, what we're looking at here has nothing to do with the actual text that's going to be on the screen yet. It's going to direct the text that is going to show up, but this is actually not something that your learners are going to see at this point. So let's go to the audience right here. Acme Inc. employees, contractors, representatives, regardless of the department, who need to understand and adhere to the company standards. I think that's perfect. You can add on specific target audiences, like if you're also targeting customers or something like that, then you can go ahead and just write that here. The next thing is the goal. What is the learning objective? What do you want to have at the end of this course? That is what you want to do for the goal. So in this case, the goal is learners will understand and apply Acme Inc.'s standards of conduct and ensure a respectful, ethical, and inclusive workplace environment. I think that sounds pretty good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and just go on to the outline here. So the next thing is the outline. So these are the learning objectives. What is going to take place? Now, this I have seen in the past will directly relate to the pages and the types of pages that are created and page names and things like that. Doesn't mean it's one-to-one, but that is most of the time, if you have an objective, it's going to have a page somewhere inside of your course. So the first thing is identify key elements in Acme standards of conduct. These, again, are not things that the learner is going to see. These are things that what are important inside of the course. And so the first thing is I want to make sure that we identify the elements. What parts of the standards of conduct are there and what should people pay attention to? In fact, I can add that keep in mind what people should pay attention to. So things that you want to add on to the objective, and so it takes that into account. The next thing right here that you can do is you can either delete an objective or you can actually drag and drop. So if I come in here, I can drag and drop and reposition this objective somewhere else. Up on the top, you can also click on Edit with AI. Now, this is a little bit different than this Edit with AI. The top Edit with AI is going to go ahead and rewrite everything. But right here, these will guide the learner's takeaways from your course. And so if we want to edit just this learning objectives, then I can go ahead and do that and say, hey, well, we're not focused on this, or I want to simplify this a little bit more. Especially with the bad documentation, you may want to take out certain objectives, or you may want to say, hey, step-by-step analysis of this process. Those are kinds of things that you would want to do. Now, I forgot to mention, you can do the same thing here that is just about the course details. So the top button overwrites everything. The other buttons right here will basically rewrite just that part of that section. Now, this is probably the most important thing that you can do when you're creating the content is come up with good learning objectives, come up with good learning details, and make sure that it addresses everything that needs to happen inside of this course. Once you have done that, there are a couple of things that you can do before you move on to the next section. The first thing you can do is you can always go back and you can re-edit, re-upload new documentation, or you can come down to where it says export course details. So if you want to have details and the learning objectives and all that, you can actually export this out as a document or a PDF, and you can send it out to stakeholders and say, here is the objectives, learning objectives that we're going to be covering inside of this course. Is there anything that you want to change or to modify? So those are things to keep in mind where you can get feedback at this point of the development. All right, so now that we're ready, let's go ahead and click on Generate Course Outline. Now, depending on your documentation, this still may take a while. We have the course details, but at this point, we're still not actually generating the specific content. We're getting closer here. If you come into here, you can see that this is my overview. And you can see here, Acme Standards of Conduct. This is going to be the overview. This is going to be the course title. This is going to be the description. So it is giving me some content, but it's not giving me all of the content because it's not giving me specific blocks, interactive blocks at this point. But I want to make sure that I dive into what is happening inside of each lesson. But this is the important part, is the different sections and lessons that you want to cover. So after you've taken a look at the title and you've taken a look at the description, the next thing is to come into each lesson. So the first lesson, the title is going to be here, the description is going to be here, and then these are going to be the key topics. I'm not really writing what is covered in the key topics. I'm mostly writing that these are the key topics that are going to be covered. And then the next part is where it will go ahead and adjust that at that point. So you can see right here, purpose of standards of conduct, who does the standards apply to, overview of key elements, different things like that. On each of these sections, I can always go in and tell it to revamp itself or say, oh, we need to focus more on the customer level on this section, and we need to focus more on the employee level on this section. And I can give it, I love the fact that you can edit just specific sections with AI and have it refine itself as well. So still a lot of instructional design overview, even though a lot of the content creation is being taken care of by AI, it still requires, I've always, even from the beginning, I've always looked as instructional designers as more of these architects, or more of like what the term that I've always used was a composer of an orchestra, where you have all these different parts, but they're the ones to bring it all together and to direct it and to say, okay, this is the correct learning objective. This is what we need to do. And so I think that the roles might be shifting a little bit in that, but we can still guide it, direct it, and adjust it as needed. So I'm going to go ahead and you can see lesson 2, lesson 3, and lesson 4. Now, if you need to export this out, just like we did with the last section, you can export out all the lessons and the lesson objectives as well. Now, what I want to do is take a note of what you see here in lesson 1, purpose of our standards of conduct. We're going to see if that translates into a page and this is into a section, but let's go ahead and take a look at that. But the next step is going to take a little bit because this is where it will start to generate some of our content. And when I click on this, I have 2 options. I have the option to generate with text and interactive blocks, or I have the option to generate with just text. Just text will then allow me to go in and adjust it, change it to interactive blocks later. So if you wanted to do that step first, or it's going to take a stab at the different types of interactive blocks that there are. And some of them will be cards, some of them will be accordions, some of them may be quiz questions. It's going to go ahead and take a stab at creating this content, including all the interactive blocks. So I'm going to do that. And this is, again, depending on your content, may take a little while. You can see that it's created my outline with the title, Acme Standards of Conduct, Workplace Behavior, and Expectations. So that is done, but you can see now each lesson is a page so far. So it's actually not separating it into different sections. So lesson 1 is going to be 1 page, but inside of there we'll have all of those key objectives inside of your outline. Now I can always go back a step. I can come back into this and I can change this later, but it's probably good to download the outline and just ensure that everything that was inside of the outline has actually been taken care of. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here for a second. We're going to wait for this to generate and then take a look at what has been generated. And you will notice down at the bottom left, the progress. So right now it is generating lesson 1 of 4. All right, so it has created all of our lessons for us. Now we can go in just like normal and we can go into each lesson and we can see all of the different blocks that are available. Or we can actually come up to the top and we can come in and click on preview. If we click on preview, this will allow us to see what the learner is going to see. We can see all of the different lessons and so forth, and we can change the design, the theme, and everything like that. But if I come into here, you can see how it's separated out these different sections. So right here, welcome to Acme Standard of Conduct. I think that was the first key point. So if I click on continue here, it's now going to go, and I think this is part of that pulling out key standards of conduct and terms that you may want to know. So what is standards of conduct, respectful workplace? All of that has been created for me automatically. So I have different accordions and so forth. I have quotes. I have checking your understanding. This is still AI. AI still makes mistakes. Just like if you were going to have an intern or someone create content, you're going to want to check all of the content. You're going to want to read through all of the content, make sure that it matches your organization and so forth. But because you're starting with that documentation, it gets further than if you were just to prompt everything inside of ChatGPT. And I forgot to mention that this is part of the AI assistant. So you will need to have the AI assistant in order for this to work as well. Now, I'm going to come in here. You can see different types of questions. There's also key behaviors, key takeaways, and that is page number 1. Page number 2 has a very similar format so far, but it is using the accordion first. It's still using quotes. It's using tabs as well, not with any images, but I can go in and with the AI assistant add on images. I can go generate, image prompts. I can go generate audio as well. So a lot of good stuff here, but let's go into edit. And one thing I wanted to point out is on the course level. So let's go back into the course level here. If you click on AI assistant, you can always go back in and return to AI outline. This will allow you to go back into that step by step and the course outline here, which I can always go back into the other steps. But this allows me to go back into the course outline and change things and regenerate pages and additional content as well. In fact, let me click on return to course. If I click on AI assistant and go into AI settings, this will allow me to upload additional documentation. So if I find that content is missing, I can upload additional documentation and then go back and regenerate things as well. Or I could even upload additional documentation and just generate specific lessons. So even after you've done that initial generate, you can go back in and generate more. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and just close that out there. And just like in a normal course, when you go into this content, there is the AI assistant over on the left-hand side where it says AI block tools. There is an edit with AI. So if I click on edit with AI, this is where you can go in and you can prompt things to change about this. So you can say, oh, change the tone on this, or don't be talking to employees in this area, be talking to leadership and management in this area. So those are the kinds of things that you can do. You can change focus, you can change tone, you can make it shorter, you can make it longer if you want to expand upon it. You can come in here and just chat with it. And then once you chat with it, you can insert your changes and it will change it just for that block. So this allows you to go block by block, change content, get additional things refined to get to the right course here. So that is one thing that you can do. But if you come into the AI tools, you can also add AI audio. So coming in here, just like you can inside a storyline, you can select a voice and you can do text to speech. So if you click on write with audio as well, this will allow you to write some text. Or I could copy the text from the page and insert it inside of here. In fact, there is a shortcut, create your script, insert block text, and boom, does it right there. So I don't even need to go in and copy the text, it just inserts it. And then I can click on generate speech. It will generate the audio for me, and then I can insert it as part of this block. And I can do this with every single block here. Here is the audio. I'm going to go ahead and hit play.
Welcome to Acme Inc.'s.
And then I'm going to click on insert. Now that will process the audio automatically, and then it will insert the audio so someone can click play, just like with a normal audio file. So that is one thing that I can do here, but I can also do instant convert. And this is where you can come to any type of page. And let's say, okay, the cards really aren't working for me. So I'm going to go ahead and click on instant convert. And let's go ahead and change this to sorting. So it's going to take all of the content in that block. It is going to create a new piece of content. It's not going to delete the old one just in case it got it wrong, but it's going to create a new block, and you can test this out, make sure everything is good on that block, and then delete the old block if you want to. But if I come in here, I can always come in and edit, okay, what is in one column compared to the other column, just like I can with anything else. Even though AI is creating a lot of this kind of general outline, I have the ability to go in and edit anything about it. So instant convert, you can always go into other things like sorting, statements, flashcards, knowledge checks as well. But if you wanted to go back into that outline, you do have to go into the course level and then go into the AI assistant to go back to return to outline. This is pretty powerful. I want to do one more thing here as to kind of wrap things up, and I've already uploaded this bad documentation. And so I'm going to go back into this course here, and I'm going to go into the staying safe and efficient in the warehouse. So this is taking that bad documentation and some of the things, and I'm going to show you what I did with this outline. So I'm going to click on return to outline. And then here is the source material where I uploaded the documentation. Here is the course details. This is where I wanted to change it because it was really poorly written, and I wanted to make it clear, approachable, so anyone can actually understand it as well, supportive and practical. Then inside of the outline, this is where I wanted to specify follow the procedures for receiving shipping goods. And so be very specific with that. And then in the course outline, this is where I can come in and change up the different pages, terms, and so forth. And even in the description, if you click on edit with AI, this allows you to improve, to make it shorter, to change the tone, to be more friendly, more straightforward, more confident, things like that. So on every step of this, there are so many ways to be able to outline, to extract content, to make it friendly, to make it shorter, to improve it. I so wish that I had this while I was at Amazon, but I am going to continue to use this for the types of documentation that I get. I honestly, or I've said this several times, but I was not trained as an instructional designer. I kind of fell into this role, but I've always been more on the development side. But on the development side, I've sometimes had to go in and to create documentation or to take documentation and change it into a course. So I've kind of become that accidental instructional designer. So to me, I totally welcome these types of tools to help me fine tune, to extract kind of the content of what's being taught here, to extract steps, different things like that. That helps me tremendously. So I wanted to go ahead and dive into that to show you all the different ins and outs and everything like that. If you like this video, head on over to my YouTube channel, click the like button and subscribe to my channel, as well as hit the bell notification so you get notified of all future videos as they come out. That really helps my channel, allows me to continue to expand this channel to reach more learning developers, to help you really stretch the tools that are available to get more out of them and to really customize them as well. That is the goal of my channel. You can also head on over to my website at learningdojo.ninja. I have apps available like giveaway tools, checklists, tasks, GSAP animation tool for Storyline, and then JavaScript snippets as well to take advantage of inside of Storyline. I also have full courses if you wanted to cover everything from A to Z in Storyline 360, JavaScript and Storyline, so if you wanted to be able to customize it to get more tracking, XAPI fundamentals that allows you to get more tracking out of your courses, Articulate Rise, and so if you wanted to cover everything from A to Z in Rise, and then also custom SCORM. So if you wanted to really take anything generated from AI, turn it into trackable learning, that is a course for you as well. Also, you can check out all my previous blog posts and download free templates. That's all I have for you today, so thanks everyone, and I'll see you next time.